Good evening. I'm Jessie Ryan, the Executive Vice President of the Campaign for College Opportunity. And on behalf of the Campaign for College Opportunity staff and Board of Directors, I am proud to be able to welcome you to our virtual fireside chat and celebration of 16 years of advancing racial equity in college opportunity across the state of California. Though we wish that we were together in person, we are hopeful that tonight's virtual conversation will be a rich dialogue at a critical moment in time. We know that we have accomplished a great deal in the 16 years that the Campaign for College Opportunity has been in existence. We have been fortunate to help lead efforts to ensure that more than $3 billion of statewide investments have gone to public colleges and universities. We have spearheaded historic transfer and remedial education reform legislation, and we have been at the cutting edge of groundbreaking research from Left Out to the State of Higher Education series, exposing inequities in public post-secondary education and promoting viable solutions for righting those inequities. We know that this work would not be possible without the partnership of so many of you who are joining us tonight. We are grateful for the role that each and every one of you have played over the course of our 16 years in ensuring that we continue to push forward so that more students are both accessing and succeeding in colleges and universities across the state. Tonight, we will have an opportunity to hear from some of the state's leaders in public post-secondary education. We will have the remarkable opportunity to hear from Governor Gavin Newsom, along with our three system leaders that reflect the beautiful diversity of our great state of California. We think that this is an appropriate conversation at this moment in time. And I want to begin by thanking our sponsors for making tonight's conversation possible. In particular, I want to call out the remarkable support from both Quinn Delaney, who has been a fierce warrior for equity, leading the Prop 16 campaign work to ensure a more racially just California, and Monica Lozano, the president and CEO of the College Futures Foundation, who has been one of the most steadfast voices on behalf of good public policy in public post-secondary education for many years. At this time, I'd like to turn it over to Monica Lozano, who will kick off this critical conversation. We hope a conversation that will illuminate some of the transformational strategies and practices that each of our system leaders, alongside our governor, are undertaking in these unprecedented times.
Monica? Oh, thank you, Jessie. It is such an honor to be able to celebrate the 16th anniversary for the Campaign for College Opportunity and to be with you today. College Futures' mission is one of educational equity. When students are supported to achieve their dreams of a college degree, especially low-income, first-generation, undocumented students of color, not only are their lives transformed, but so are the lives of their families and their communities. We have an extraordinary system of public higher education here in California. It's an engine of economic growth and vitality for the state overall, and a degree from any one of these systems translates into economic opportunity and social mobility. But it's also a system that's not easy to navigate, and it wasn't designed with today's students in mind. The structural barriers to access, retention, completion, affordability are real, and that's why the voice of a strong, credible organization like the campaign is so important. So it's my honor to introduce today's panelists, starting with the president of the Campaign for College Opportunity, Michele Siqueiros. Michele has been with the organization since 2008 and is considered to be one of the most influential and fiercest advocates for students in the country. She was first in her family to graduate from college and understands firsthand the power of a degree to change the lives of individuals. Next, Governor Gavin Newsom, who needs no introduction, but we are so pleased to have you with us, Governor. We know how committed you are to equity and the role that higher education plays in ensuring the economic vitality for the state of California. And I know firsthand that when you were Lieutenant Governor and served for 8 years on the board of the UC and the CSU, you were a fierce advocate and you came to this work with passion and commitment. So thank you for being here, Governor. President Michael Drake, the 21st president of the University of California, a system that includes 10 campuses, 5 medical centers, 3 national labs, and is world-renowned. Prior to his appointment, he was president of The Ohio State University, but he is no stranger to California. It is here where he completed the vast majority of his academic work, spent quite a bit of time with the University of California, including as Chancellor of UC Irvine. Next, Chancellor-select Joe Castro, who in January will take over the 23-campus California State University system, the largest state system in the country, and the first Californian to do so. Prior to his appointment, he was president of Fresno State and often tells a story that as the son of Mexican immigrant grandparents, a single mother, and the first in his family to graduate from a university, he knows and is an example and a testament to the opportunity that comes with a college degree. Chancellor of the largest community college system in the country, serving over 2.1 million students and 116 campuses. Chancellor Eloy Ortiz Oakley embodies the impact that a community college degree can have. It was there where he transferred into a 4-year institution after having served in the Army and earned 2 degrees from the UC Irvine. Thank you for being here, all of you. This incredible panel, the decision makers for our state's public higher education system, equity-minded champions for students, and individuals who have a lot of hard work ahead if we are to overcome and eliminate the barriers and the challenges our students face. We know these individuals care. We know they're up to the challenge. And I'll turn it over to you, Michele, to lead this fireside chat.
Thank you so much, Monica. Thank you, Governor. Thank you, Jesse. And of course, thank you to our higher education system leaders. Thank you, everyone, for joining us tonight. I'm honored to welcome you virtually into my home. We know that as we celebrate, that celebration is obviously humbled by the reality of what a difficult year this has been, and the unprecedented global health pandemic and economic challenges and incredible pressure that many families and students across our state face. We've lost too many Californians, and our hearts truly go out to all of our students and families and everyone that has been affected by COVID-19. Governor, we appreciate that you have taken time, because we know that you have worked nonstop to protect California, to fight for us, and we appreciate you. We appreciate your leadership on higher education, especially, but we know that these are challenging times, and we are thankful for you in these times. I want to just kick it off by starting the conversation, and doing so, a year ago, we celebrated the governor's historic investments in higher education through his budget. As Monica shared, he has spent his years prior to becoming governor as a champion for higher education. But of course, we now face a completely new world and a completely new environment. So Governor, I just want to acknowledge that economic downturn has been challenging along with a health pandemic. You have established a task force to address higher education recovery with equity, and we appreciate your focus on equity throughout. I'd like to just kick off by having you talk about what does higher education look like in 2021, given these challenges. Can you also speak to what you have been proud as you've watched our leaders of higher education pivot in terms of their attempts to serve our students best? What has made you proud? What do you hope will persist in the future? And how can we ensure that no matter what we do, we address the very unequal impact and disparate impact that is facing our most vulnerable Californians, the low-income communities that we care about, and obviously Black and Latinos in our state?
Well, I think we have 45 minutes. I'll need 50 to answer that. So the rest of you can actually, go back to whatever you were working on. It's been wonderful to serve with you on the panel. Michele, by the way, you take the Fireside seriously. It's right out of homework. Unbelievable. Festive. You look fabulous. Jesse, I love the background. I, however, have failed all of you here in my austere office. It is great to see my three friends. And by the way, it's actually true. I've had a long-standing relationship with Eloy, serving with him on the UC regions. Joe is a rock star. I told him I almost was tearing up when he got the job because of the work he's been doing and the integration, not just in terms of the agenda that we're advancing today as it relates to inclusion and equity, but economic development, workforce development, and really focusing on regions. And Michael, I remember when I just started, brand new lieutenant governor, everyone's like, God, the last thing we need is lieutenant governor serving on the UC. They're all the same. They all do, they read those speeches and they're automatic no's on this and that. And he's probably sitting back going, I've seen a lot of these guys come and go, and now we're stuck together, Michael, back. And it's great to see you back. And I know your Bay Area roots, not just your roots at Irvine, and obviously so pleased that you're at the helm. So this is an incredible moment, Michele. I mean it, where you have personal relationships between the governor, legislative leaders, and the three leaders of the three systems. We have experience together in the trenches, good and bad. We've gone through good budgets, difficult budgets. We've heard a lot of the same concerns expressed over and over and over again. So we're familiar with the issues, the contours of the debate, and the challenges that are upon us. Of course, the biggest challenge is self-evident, the headwinds of a COVID-induced recession, the fact that people are pulling away. You're seeing that particularly with our immigrant communities in terms of the applications, with the grant request, the FAFSA applications. That's pronounced, that's profound, that is top of our agenda to begin to address. The deeper debate, which is this long-standing debate around really what's the utility of having a degree. I mean, that's still raging. And in many ways, it's picked up a little steam over the last 9-10 months as more and more of the trend lines become headlines on new work styles, new arrangements, distance learning, distance everything, technology, not in person, moving away a little from social-emotional to a different construct. And I think that's a challenge for us at this moment as well. We got to push back. But there's no bigger challenge and there's no bigger interest in having a governor appear on anything except where's the money? Show us the money. What's your budget look like? How are you going to help stabilize our efforts to deal with all these myriad of issues, including basic needs and foster kids and the issues related to hunger and homelessness, which will be even more pronounced into this new academic year. And so I want folks to know my commitment was not just episodic. I was pleased and proud, Michele, thank you for acknowledging when I first took the oath of office to make real some of my commitments as it relates to more general fund, more one-time funding. Last year, we started the same in January, but only had that setback with a $54.3 billion shortfall with that May revise. Fortunately, the CARES Act, I think this is a big story that hasn't been told, over $1.5 billion went to the three systems through the CARES Act that substantially offset, though there were rules attached to it, but substantially offset some of the state support. But that is unlikely to materialize again, and that's where the state really has to intervene. And I want folks to know, just as a setup, and I'll move aside, that we are working on the budget as we speak, and we are committed to not only addressing some of the ongoing issues, but because of the nature of the volatility of our tax structure, a lot of one-time revenue we will enjoy this year. And I want to make sure, particularly because Prop 13, the other Prop 13, fell short on the bond, that we're there on the deferred maintenance side, and we're there on the capital needs as well, not just the human capital, but physical capital needs for the systems moving into the new year.
Thank you, Governor. I also just want to acknowledge how historic it is that the 3 system leaders are people of color for the first time ever in California. And you alluded to this, Governor Newsom. What will you do to ensure cross collaboration? In a little while, we'll be joined by Superintendent Tony Thurmond. But one of the challenges our state has continued to face is really that we could do a much better job at ensuring that our community colleges, our Cal States, and our UCs work better together. What will you do to encourage that?
Yeah, we've not done justice to that. I mean, we really haven't. It's been stubborn. It's been frustrating. Look, I know we had a formal advisory committee, but that had all kinds of pratfalls, more than I even understood when I got in this office, and everyone regaled me with the shortcomings of that old structure. We created a new structure, and actually it was created at the end of Barron's term, where we come together and we have the opportunity of dialogue, not necessarily in a forum like this, but a more intimate forum. And we really set out our goals and agenda. In fact, Joe was a beneficiary of that last year, President Castro, in terms of the Fresno Drive initiative, where the 3 systems said, you know what, this is something we can get our arms around and really help and support. And so that's an example of the work that we are doing. But moreover, I think the model that is not even defined of having Chancellor Oakley on the UC Regents, he's so active, vocal, and he has such unique perspective because of his status running the CSUs. I often think about why he's not on the CSU itself. When we talk about 1440, we talk about ADT, we talk about transfer, and all these programs, Michele, you champion. You literally have championed in your organization. And the opportunity for President Drake, perhaps, and Chancellor Castro to do the same. And I think the opportunity to have cross-pollination that's more formal would be more dynamic than perhaps anything we can do.
That's an excellent idea. Dr. Castro, Dr. Drake, would you be interested in serving on the Board of Governors and vice versa, CSU Board of Trustees?
Joe's going to answer first.
The governor would like me to do that. I would be happy to do so.
Eloy seems the only enthusiastic one.
Right.
Well, it's a good transition to you, Chancellor Oakley, because we do want to get your opinion on how we can ensure stronger collaboration across the system. The governor has alluded to some of those ways. And can you also speak to the importance of transfer collaboration, right? We know the majority of the students in California start at a community college.
Sure. So thank you, Michele. And let me just begin by thanking Governor Newsom for his leadership, but also for his partnership. I've really appreciated it in my time in California. And also, I can't help but also thank his senior advisor, Londa Josie, who has been amazing.
Thank you for that.
Let me just say, you know, I'm a transfer student. I wouldn't be here, but for the opportunity to transfer from Golden West College to UC Irvine. I was one of those students, like many of our community college students, who was told in high school not to worry about the University of California. That was not something we needed to talk about. So it took me a long time, 4 years in the Army, 2 years working to finally realize that I needed to get to a community college, and that community college opened the door for me. So the importance of transfer is critical to our future, I believe. The California community colleges are open to the top 100% of students. So anyone who has that dream to go to the CSU or to UC has a pathway to do so. So the more that we could align ourselves, the better. And we've tried. We've done a lot of work. SB 1440. I have to thank Janet Napolitano for the MOU that she signed with me, and now working with with President Drake. You know, we're working to get it done, but there remains a number of obstacles. Obstacles that we need to work to eliminate. The California community colleges, through the work that we've been doing through AB 705, through the Guided Pathways framework, we now have more students prepared to transfer than ever before in our history, and more students of color ready to transfer. So we need to think about how we create the capacity at CSU, at UC, how we rethink those pathways to make it smoother, because otherwise I fear that either students won't transfer or they'll decide to go to other places. Certainly, there's a reason why Arizona State University sets up shop here. There's a reason why Oregon State University, is financed through California. There's a reason why the University of Phoenix and other institutions are some of our top transfer institutions, because we can't find the capacity here in California. And so I'm hopeful that we can work together to make this a reality, to help institutions like Joe's institution, Fresno State, create more access to the Central Valley, because those community colleges are doing amazing work with and through Joe's leadership. So we've got a lot of work to do, and I think it's critical for the state, for the state's future, to see that transfer pathway be as smooth as possible and as effective as possible.
So we've been huge champions of the associate degree for transfer. It's exciting to see over 300,000 students in California have earned that degree. But we have seen in the data that Black students are not earning the associate degree for transfer at the rates that we would like. Chancellor Oakley, can you speak to that and what the community colleges can do to ensure that that isn't a point to be made next year?
Right. Well, I think we could spend the whole evening talking about just Black students in our system, because let's be honest, we have left them behind for decades. And we need to rethink how we design a pathway and how they see themselves as being welcomed on our campuses. I mean, 2020, if nothing else, has shown us the challenges that particularly Black Americans face. So we have in the community colleges initiated a call to action focused on improving the campus culture, the access and the success of students of color and low-income students. But beyond that, we have to acknowledge that we cannot become whole unless we bring the population of students that's been left furthest behind, Black students, up first. We have to make that commitment. And so I'm hopeful that working with the governor, working with my colleagues, that we can really put an emphasis on Black students in California, because you're right, we are losing them. We cannot be whole in California until we bring them forward. And I say that as a Latino who, we also have to do a better job of serving, but us as Latinos, we cannot be whole unless our brothers and sisters in the African-American community are made whole.
We absolutely agree. And we're here to do whatever we can to make that happen. Dr. Drake, we're not going to let you off the hook. We want to know if you'd be interested in the possibility of serving on the Board of Governors or the CSU Board of Trustees.
I think that I'd be interested. Again, I like Joe's answer. I'll do whatever I'm asked to do. Our real goal is to work on better articulation agreements between the CSUs and between the community colleges. It's extraordinarily important for us to have transfer students come to our campuses. Like Chancellor Oakley, I was a transfer student back in the last century, and it was a pathway that was open and created a future that wouldn't have been there without that. I think that that's great. We're also very interested at the UC in diversifying our faculty, and to diversify our faculty, we have to have more graduate students, more people in PhD and doctoral programs. And we'd love to have a stronger articulation with the CSUs on providing us with a diverse cadre of people who can come and do that advanced study that leads to being faculty members for us, for the CSUs, and for the community colleges as well. But that's something else that we have to do. We have to bring students in, but we also have to support the leadership. And so we are every day interested in doing what we can to be more inclusive at the university. We speak of access, affordability, and excellence as being three pillars of our future. And we want to make sure that we create that access to students from all corners of California. As we know, talent is distributed across all zip codes, but opportunity is not. And we have to look really, really carefully to make sure that we provide that broad access to an affordable education in our institutions. And so I'm committed to working closely with my colleagues to do whatever we can, and with the governor to be able to do that. Let me say again, give thanks to the governor. The governor's focus on and the governor's appreciation for the importance of higher education is well known throughout my colleagues, throughout our system, and it's appreciated and helps keep people motivated to work through these times, which have been so tough for all of us.
Thanks, Mr. President.
Dr. Castro, you're about to take the helm in less than a month of the biggest public university system in the nation and perhaps the world. What do you want to add to this conversation about, collaboration with your colleagues here and working with the governor moving forward?
Thank you. Well, I'd like to accelerate the progress that has already been made over the last few years. And while there are headwinds, I'm encouraged. I want to thank the governor for his support here in the Central Valley, because we've been making really good progress here. We have record enrollment at Fresno State and record high retention rates. And as it relates to African-American students, we even had a 10% increase in African-American student enrollment this year. And that's due to a lot of hard work that we've done here in the region with our alumni, business community, the K-12 leaders, community college leaders, and we're going to sustain that here. I know that will happen. And I'd like to do that across the state with Eloy and Michael and the governor. And I think that there are some new strategies that we can undertake that would accelerate our progress in the coming years.
Governor, we've championed the HEROES Act federally. We have a new administration coming in January for our nation. What do you foresee and hope, and what can we continue to do to champion to ensure that California can get its fair share, and certainly that higher ed in California can get its fair share?
Well, first of all, we need to dispose of the over 100 lawsuits that we have filed against the Trump administration. And we have an agenda to do just that. We're blessed by having our Attorney General now as the pick for the new HSS Secretary. That's profoundly significant as it relates to the budget of this state, for no other reason than the biggest growth in our budget and the higher education system budget is in the healthcare space, both on the retiree as well as active employee space. And we have some very creative strategies, waivers program we're referring to as CalAIM. You'll be hearing a lot more about that, where we're hopeful we're successful in getting his support. That said, no more important thing than Pell Grants. We've been talking about it for years. No greater recipient, beneficiary than President Castro, soon Chancellor Castro, in terms of those Pell Grants. We've been talking a lot about that. We tend to go every year back and we make our case anew, but this time we are organized in a more deliberative and strategic way. And we're blessed, dare I say, and I don't want to take up too much time. I'm respectful of everyone's time, but we're truly blessed. And Eloy can appreciate this perhaps more than anyone, with Jill Biden, Dr. Biden, and her renowned advocacy for higher education. It's a blessing beyond words. And so having had the privilege of appointing Linda Darling Hammond, who is critically engaged in the national conversations with Dr. Biden on K through 14, K through 12, perhaps, but more K through 14, the opportunity to build the bridges, these relationships that are well established with this administration. This is a remarkable moment in higher education history, potentially.
Indeed. And as you heard them talk about collaboration, anything else that comes to mind, Governor, as you face over this term and potentially your next term, appointments to the UC Board of Regents, the Board of Governors, the CSU Board of Trustees?
Well, Jerry took all the appointments at UC. I don't know whether there were any left. But CSU,
there are some coming, and as you know,
coming. The problem is, and Monica can appreciate this, the law of familiarity. I worked with these guys, and they all want to be reappointed. It's a terrible position to be in because you've earned respect. That's why I made 2 reappointments, which I'm not sure everyone has strong opinions about. But that said, I did make 3 new appointments to the CSU, and I'm really proud of those appointments. I thought they were great appointments. We'll see. Maybe they won't be. We all start out with as fresh air. Who knows how we end up? But I think it was Lincoln who said we're all born originals. Sadly, too many of us die copies. But anyway, these are original thinkers, and they're unique. They're certainly diverse, and I think they will be outstanding. And Eloy, trust me, he's been on me for all the appointments at the community college system, and I know President Drake will be doing the same with these critical. And I know how scarce they are. And Michelle, I appreciate the question because I know where you're really leaning on the UC side. How scarce they are and how important they are and how we are substantially underrepresented in a number of categories in the state. And that needs to be addressed. And I respect that.
Well, we appreciate that and welcome Superintendent of Public Instruction, Tony Thurmond. So now we have the incredible, all of you here on this fireside chat. We're super excited about that. Governor, we appreciate your leadership. We know that it is tough to make those appointments. Would you like to do any breaking news appointments in terms of who will be the next U.S. Senator?
You don't want to know who the next AG is? Ask Thurmond. I've been talking to him for advice a lot. Maybe he has some insight.
We'd like to know both.
If you're allowing me to make the announcement, I'm happy to do so, Governor.
We'd love to know.
Be a good choice. We're getting. I will say just because I know it's very relevant, particularly in California politics, because a lot of movement that we're getting very close to making a decision, and that decision is predicated. I'm dead serious on a strong advocate for higher education. That's not just because I'm with you tonight. That's because it's part of the DNA of what we are about and what I care about and what the state needs. When the world thinks about California, they think about Central Valley, breadbasket of the world. They think about Silicon Valley. They think about entertaining the world. But they also, the fourth leg of that stool is our conveyor belt for talent. That master plan that was conceived by the former occupant going back a half century in this room. And I'm mindful of that. And we need strong advocate in our U.S. Senate to advance our collective cause.
Excellent. Well, if you change your mind, we're going to be on for another 30 minutes or so. So you can break the news here.
I love it. You heard it here first, right? Is that where you're going, Michelle?
Thank you so much.
It would be a good choice. You would be a very good choice.
I will serve if you need me.
And Michelle's even better, Tony. Forgive me. I appreciate all of you guys and look forward to spending more time. Michelle, hey, you're a rock star. Forgive me, Jesse. You guys, this is an incredible organization. Honestly, there were a bunch of fancy folks said, hey, you got so much stuff to do on other things tonight. I said, no way. I mean it because I just really admire you personally and professionally. This is one of the most important organizations in the state. You hold our feet to the fire, you raise expectations, but more importantly, you deliver because you're constructive. And I just want to thank you for being pragmatic as you advance our collective ideals. So appreciate everybody and thank you for the privilege of this opportunity.
Thank you, Governor. And we are with you. Thank you so much for your time and support for higher education.
God bless.
So with that, I'd love to turn it over to my next question to Dr. Drake. Dr. Drake, you know, the UC system has really been a model in any topic, any issue, but certainly dealing with the global health pandemic, dealing with virtual learning. I've shared with you that my son is a third-year junior at UC San Diego, and it has just been a privilege to watch and see what has been an incredibly challenging time. Can you talk a little bit about what advice you might offer other leaders across the nation or in this room around what is needed? You are a medical doctor. You have that expertise. What do we need to do before we get back to an in-person environment for our students?
Oh, thank you for the question, Michelle, and I'm glad your son is having a good experience. I love talking to parents and hearing that. And I'd say, I think this, I'll speak, if I may, for my colleagues, I think across California, we've all worked really hard on these things. And what we've done is really followed basic public health science and advice and looked to the things that we knew and actually other countries around the world employed to help to keep their populations safe. In our case, it's the population on our campus, our students, our faculty, our staff, particular focus on our students who are living with us, the students who are resident there on campus. And it was all of the straightforward, simple things that we've heard about. We did testing when students returned to campus. We had sequestration of students after they were tested, and then they were retested again to make sure that we didn't have any students with occult disease. We, when we had students who became positive, we were able to isolate them and quarantine, do contact tracing and quarantine them. We made it mandatory for students to wear masks and social distance. And this was on all of our campuses. And a couple of things we learned in this this period, really the last 3.5 months, since late August until now. A few things turned out to be true. One is on our campuses broadly, the students living on campus had infection rates, positivity rates that were on average about 1/10 those in the communities that surrounded them. Sometimes actually even a smaller fraction than that, but the positivity rates were in the 0.2, 0.1, 0.2, 0.3% rate across the campuses for the fall. Students living on campus near the campus, but not living in campus housing, had positivity rates that were 2 to 3 times higher. So if the on-campus rate was 0.2 or 0.3, the off-campus rate might be 0.8 or 1.1 in that ballpark. But in the surrounding communities, the positivity rates, as we've all seen, would be 3, 4, 5% or more. And that was maintained across the campuses, across the fall. And it didn't matter, honestly, we found if we had 1,000 students living on campus, as we did in some of our campuses, or if we had nearly 10,000 students living on campus, as was the case in UC San Diego. We were able to, by following sound public health guidelines, by doing the things that we all need to do, and by having a community of young adults really in our students, and then faculty and staff to support them who would follow the basic rules, we were able to keep the infection rates very low. And then when they were that low, we were able to isolate those students who became infected and quarantine those who were their contacts. So we didn't have a circumstance of outbreaks on campus as we saw on so many other college campuses around the country. Again, I haven't talked specifically with President Chancellor Select Castro or Chancellor Ortiz Oakley, but what we found was that parties off campus and other super spreader events that occurred, those were the most dangerous things. And as our students did a good job of not doing those things, we were able to keep our infection rate low.
Thank you for that. I'd like to go to Dr. Castro. One of the things that we have been excited to see from the CSU system has been a real explicit focus, both under current Chancellor Tim White, his predecessor, Charlie Reed, the graduation initiative in particular, that was explicit about saying we've got to improve 4-year and 6-year graduation rates. They're unacceptable. And we have to close the gaps that persist for students of color. Can you speak to the fact that there's great news to celebrate? Graduation rates are up. Incredible leadership has had to happen to make that so. But we continue to be concerned as an organization, as a state, that the persistent gaps for students of color are not being closed. What do you intend to do moving forward on that effort?
Thank you, Michelle. The graduation initiative 2025 is my highest priority as chancellor. And Chancellor White, as you said, has done a great job with all of us to lift our graduation rates and take our gaps as close to zero as possible. I think there's a lot more work that needs to be done around the equity gaps with respect to some underrepresented students. Fortunately, here at Fresno State, that's around 2%. So we're doing pretty well, but there's variance within the system that I want to look at carefully, and the same with the Pell gap. And that's where your earlier point about federal support is so important. That'll be one of our highest priorities this year, this upcoming year in 2021 with the federal government, is to get the Pell Grant doubled. And that will make, I think, a huge difference. I'd like to look with our presidents and faculty and staff at some new strategies. I need a little time to study those, but I found, at least here at the local level, that we could make pretty rapid progress. And we've seen that at the system level, and I'd like to accelerate that progress. As I think about transfer students, 75 to 80% of them graduate here at Fresno State in a timely way. I want to accelerate the transfer pathway. Eloy and I have talked about that, and I'd love to see more of that. I think we do have some capacity to do that in the short term, and as he said earlier, we're going to need more capacity over the medium and longer term. So I'd want to encourage the governor and the legislature to look at that as well, and that will make a very positive difference in terms of our recruitment, and then we'll have the support structure in place so that our students can graduate in a timely way and go out and do great things.
Well, on the federal front, we are here to join hands and champion the kind of support we need on financial aid and other support for our colleges and universities. I think all of you know I'm not shy about asking the tough questions or pushing on some of the issues. So the next one is going to be for Dr. Drake and Chancellor Oakley. We have been committed to eliminating unnecessary tests in higher education. We've succeeded in the community college system through the elimination of placement tests that were very faulty, that were putting students in remedial courses they did not ever move beyond. And research has proven that students, if you believe in them, actually do succeed if they're placed in college level courses. And we're excited by that. We're excited by the response of the UC Board of Regents in an effort to promote equity, to eliminate use temporarily for now of the SAT, ACT in freshman admissions. Dr. Drake, we want to know what your position is on the SAT, ACT in freshman admissions. And Chancellor Oakley, we'd like you to chime in as a UC Regent on that, as we know you've been an important voice.
Yeah, I mean, we've suspended those certainly in the current trim, and I don't see us going back to the past in the future. That's not in our interest. We're very interested in admitting students to our university, very interested in improving the access, affordability, and excellence of the university, and we would always want to support those things. I won't talk much more about that because we have litigation. And so I don't, I want the litigation that has to play itself out, but we are not in any way interested in having inappropriate barriers to entry. We want to do what we can to encourage and support students who are applying. This year, in fact, we are just noticing we're going to have over 250,000 unique applications to our university in this season. We were at 247 last week, so far and away a record. And actually, we were up by nearly 20% in African-American applicants, about 1,300 more African-American applicants. We're up nearly 11% in Latinx applicants, about 4,500 more there. So we are, people understand the value of that we offer, and our goal is to do all we can to admit those outstanding students and to support them in their progress forward to being able to contribute to our communities in every way that they can.
Well, I'm happy to chime in. First, wearing my Chancellor of the Community College hat, we have seen clear evidence that standardized testing has hurt students, particularly students of color. And since AB 705, we're learning now with the recent research that so many more students of color are progressing through at rates we hadn't seen before, and they're succeeding at rates similar to those who did not take the remedial courses. So I'm a clear believer in the need to eliminate standardized testing in higher education. I'll put on my region hat, and I'm only one region. I'm not speaking for the Board of Regents, certainly not speaking for President Drake. It would be hard for me to step away from my comments over the years. But I've been very clear in my view. I think the The practice of standardized testing for use in admissions is a practice of the past. We need to move forward. We need to find better ways to select talent from every zip code, as President Drake has mentioned, throughout California. And I don't think that the SAT and the ACT serve as well anymore. As a matter of fact, it creates an industrial complex of organizations and businesses that feed off of the SAT and the ACT, and that really does not support low-income communities. So I'm looking forward to the work that President Drake and his team are doing at the Office of the President, and certainly be supportive in any way I can be.
Thank you, Chancellor Oakley. There's a hard question for you coming up too, Dr. Castro. You know that we have been actively engaged over the past year in fighting the CSU's proposal to add quantitative reasoning and math as an additional requirement for freshman admissions. That proposal was put forth by the Chancellor's office, and I'm interested in knowing what your position is. There's a task force reviewing that right now. And it will be before the Board of Trustees for consideration once again in just a few months.
Yeah, this is like the reception. What I would say about that, Michelle, as you know, there is a process that the Board of Trustees and Chancellor White agreed to, and there's further research to be done. So in my view, we should let that play out and then, take it back to the board for further discussion. But I'm eager to see where this research leads us, and then we make a decision about how to proceed after that occurs.
Fair enough. Thank you. So we're going to go into rapid response questions for each one of you. One sentence, one priority, so that we can try and get as many as possible in here. I'm really interested in what you think is the most important thing to be done around diversifying and creating more equity amongst your faculty and staff. And we'll start with you, Chancellor Oakley.
Well, we have to make a real commitment, an intentional commitment to removing bias out of the hiring processes, and to making a commitment to hire faculty and staff of color to truly reflect the experiences of our students. That's something that we cannot compromise on, something that we cannot hide behind Prop 209 or any other issue. We have to make a firm commitment, because it is in the best interest of students that we do this.
Dr. Drake, and then Dr. Castro.
I've mentored and led efforts to diversify the faculties around me and in my institutions for my career. And I'm actually it's one of the things I'm proudest of, and we'll continue that work. In fact, diversifying the faculty is something that we've done. We've also diversified senior leadership. And I've had the proud honor of mentoring several people who've gone on to become university presidents. Some of Joe's colleagues I've worked with closely as their careers move forward. So that's work that honestly, the three of us have been engaged in for decades, and we will continue. Wonderful to have partners in continuing that. And the last thing I said, I mentioned this a little bit earlier, I'm really looking at our partnership with CSU and the community college partnership for transfer to our undergraduate, but CSU in particular for people with a 4-year degree who are ready to go to graduate school, because that is a pool that can really help to enhance our ability to diversify our faculty.
I love that idea, Michael. I want to work with you in that way. I think there's a lot of potential to strengthen that pathway, and that could lead to some of them coming back to the CSU to be part of our faculty. So I'm looking forward to that conversation. And as he and Eloy said, I think we need to model it in our own selection of our cabinets. And I've tried to do that throughout my career, and have diverse committees that are doing these searches. And I think when you have diversity of people involved and fair processes, really good things can happen. I've seen that here at Fresno State and other universities where I've served.
So a more personal question, what has been the biggest challenge that you have all faced in what has been an incredibly challenging year? Dr. Drake, would you go first, followed by Dr. Castro and Chancellor Oakley?
Yeah, thank you. Impossible to answer, honestly, because there are several things tied for first place. Among those things that are tied for first place has been the economic displacement of our students, particularly those lower income students and first generation students who we just worked so hard to bring into our midst, who now find them and their families really bearing the brunt of this. That's been a real challenge. Our workers, our staff, multiple people across our campuses who've been with us for many years. A lot of our people work at home and with computers. A lot of our people work with lawnmowers and are working in food service and are driving. And we had to work really hard to make sure to protect them through the difficult economic times we're facing. The third tie for first place is my group of 100,000 people who work at our hospitals in various ways. Our healthcare workers, the frontline nurses and doctors and people in the ER who are facing the COVID onslaught at this second, and every second, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and have been doing so for 10 months. So those have been areas of real stress. And last quickly, our faculty and students broadly who had to pivot to say, my goodness, how do we change a flat tire while the car is moving and get to the finish line on time? And so it's really been all hands on deck across the breadth of our organization. And I'm just proud of the way that people have pushed forward to get us to where we are now, looking forward to the future being brighter.
Yeah, I've seen so much resiliency here in the Central Valley. I mean, the fact that we have a record enrollment during a pandemic is something I would not have predicted, a year ago or in March. So that part of it gives me great hope. But the thing is, I've just seen such high levels of stress, as Michael said, and some trauma and depression. And that's worrisome. I do worry about how that's going to unfold in the early part of 21. So I do think there needs to be some hope. And that's why we had the announcement today, based on what we know in terms of the vaccine having predominantly in-person instruction in the fall. I'd say the biggest leadership lesson for me during this time is that, solutions to problems that might come up that look unreasonable on one day might be completely reasonable, the next day or the next week. So try to be, adhere to our mission and our values, but not to be too firm on the strategies. Those might change over time, given the evolution of the pandemic.
Well, I have to echo what President Drake and Chancellor Castro have mentioned, but also for me, before this pandemic, we were articulating the enormous need our students have, the challenges that they face with housing insecurity, with food insecurity. So for me, the biggest challenge has been witnessing the tremendous kick in the gut to our students that this pandemic, the economic fallout, and the racial reckoning have caused for our students. People ask me all the time, what is happening with community college enrollment across the country? That shouldn't surprise us. They have been kicked in the gut. They are the most vulnerable students in our communities. They have been hit the hardest. And so, we need to find a way to get direct support to them. So for me, that's been the most difficult thing to endure over these last 9 months, is just how hard our communities have been hit and how we have to double our efforts to ensure that we don't use this as an excuse as to why another generation of students got left behind.
Thank you. Chancellor Oakley, maybe you kick off this as a closing. What gives you hope in 2021?
January 20th of 2021 gives me hope.
Dr. Drake.
I'll echo that, and I'll say also the vaccine that is coming does give me hope. I'm looking forward to seeing my grandchildren, and so I'm looking forward very much to that. And honestly, the resilience, I think that everyone has mentioned this, and President Castro just mentioned that the resiliency of our communities has been gratifying, and these are difficult times, but we're going to get through.
Dr. Castro.
I agree on all of that. And I'd go on to say the alignment, hopefully, between our state government and our federal government will be strong. And I think that's going to allow us to be much more successful in serving our students.
Thank you all so much. I have to say that the three of you certainly give me hope. You are incredible leaders and advocates for our community and the most vulnerable. And I too, Dr. Drake, look forward. I don't have grandchildren, but I cannot wait to hug my parents again. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. Monica, thank you for being an incredible host. I'm turning it over to you.
Oh, thank you, Michelle. And that was an amazing conversation. And thank you all for sharing those insights with our public. Michelle had asked me if I could summarize, and it's almost impossible to summarize the depth of what you just communicated. But there were a few things that I did just want to highlight as I thought about, sort of the key messages coming out of this. And the first one is that the personal relationships among yourselves really matter. And it's when you have relationships that are built on trust and that sort of familiarity that you can actually walk into a room and get things done in a way that might not have occurred. And we saw that today. We also saw a governor who has expressed a deep commitment to public higher education, to supporting the systems, recognizing that conveyor belt of talent and what this actually means, and that hopefully when the economy does recover, we're able to reinvest it at levels that do support the institutions. The third thing I would say is the pivot that you all had to make as a result of the pandemic. It certainly was chaotic, but you got through it, and you got through it with a deep commitment to supporting students. What we just heard right now in terms of, Eloy, you mentioned the kick in the gut that students have faced, and your empathy that came across just, so very clearly that this isn't just about reopening campuses, it's about supporting students. Fourth, I would say, leaders of color. There is something so powerful in your own personal experiences and the way in which you come to this with that kind of commitment to equity and diversity and inclusion and doing the right thing for Black students and Latin students, and it just comes across. So we need to do more. So when you say you're committing yourselves to diversifying faculty, that also means diversifying the leadership. And you are models for the way in which you can take that into the decision-making process. And lastly, I would say, Michelle, you got a lot of kudos tonight. The importance of advocacy, of having credible organizations, of being constructive. I can't say enough about how important the work of the campaign is. So thank you all for tonight. And now it's my privilege to turn it over to another champion for equity, for parents, for students, who is probably facing one of the most daunting tasks in our country, and that's oversight of our K-12 system. So the Superintendent of Public Instruction, responsible for the California Department of Education, Superintendent Tony Thurmond.
Thank you, Monica. Good evening, everyone. Felicidades on 16 great years. Michelle, thank you for your leadership. I learned something tonight that in addition to the leadership that you provide and being a barometer for where we should be thinking about racial justice and equity, that you would do a great job as an investigative reporter. And watching you drill down on the questions, I had the urge to sort of say, gee, I hope I'm not next. But I think you asked all the questions, and I think it's fair that what's important about advocacy is to have honesty and to really talk about the issues. And I think all of the leaders here answered honestly. And I think when you have relationships, we can have tough conversations about tough issues. Let's face it, we're facing the toughest moment of our lifetime right now. And I appreciated what I heard from Dr. Drake and Dr. Castro and from Chancellor Oakley and Monica and from you. And I just think that this is the only way we're going to get through these difficult times is for us to work together. Clearly, our systems are interlinked. the K-12 system is interlinked with our higher education system, and we are dependent on each other. And we have to have strong relationships, and we have to work in parallel ways to diversify our workforces at both levels, to provide more support to our students, the students who experience the insecurities that Chancellor Oakley talked about, our students experience in the K-12 community. And, you know, I'm fortunate I get to work with all these folks on the governor's higher education roundtable, and to work with President Ryan directly in the work that we do with our K-12 districts and the work with you. I try to approach every issue independently, but I'll tell you, Michelle, that, you know, it is always important to me to know what the Campaign for College Opportunity thinks about. And I view you all as a barometer for if I'm on the other side of an issue, you know, I may end up staying there, but I might be asking myself, well, wait a minute, why am I on the other side of the issue with the campaign? And I know we've worked very closely together on the issues that you asked about tonight, about the proposal for quantitative reasoning, about talking about, you know, the discrimination that is built into standardized tests. And this pandemic has taught us that we have to find alternative ways to measure learning. And to me, it opens the door to say what we've always wanted, to say that it's not just about testing, and that we have to now push harder to find the resources and the ways to measure student learning and student achievement. I'm grateful to the students who are on the Zoom. Thank you for the advocacy. Thank you. Our students are so powerful this year in the campaign to end the ban on affirmative action. I am so proud of our students in the manner in which our students have led that conversation, no doubt guided by organizations like yours, Michelle. And I just think while we came up a little short on votes, you know, we got to keep it right. We have to get elected all the time, and sometimes we win and sometimes we don't. But sometimes we pick ourselves up and we say, hey, okay, how do we come at it again? And I believe that we have opportunities here. And so let me just say felicidades, and here's to the next 16 years. And obviously we look forward to partnering with you and with all of these wonderful leaders who you've convened here tonight. And so congratulations and thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your leadership and for being in the fight and for doing all I can. I know how passionate you are about our students and our teachers, and we are grateful to you, Superintendent Thurmond. And I look forward to the four of you working together as closely as possible, because certainly each individually, you are amazing, but collectively you are, the possibility for what can be done is significant. So I appreciate you. It is my honor to introduce one of my best friends since middle school. His Grammy Award winning band, Quetzal, is performing a song for us. So we will be right back after we enjoy their incredible music, combining really Mexican pop, rock, influences from folklorico music in Mexico. They've really created music that tells you all about the social and political struggle of most vulnerable communities in our state. Homegrown here in Los Angeles, introducing Quetzal.
the land of the flowers, 7 ways to set the bird free. 7 We have arrived with a sense of return to the land of dawn and sea, to the heart of our mother. The bird is free. The bird is free. The bird is
Hi, good evening, everyone. It's such an honor to be here with you all. My name is Rebecca Cepeda. I'm from Linwood, California. I graduated from UCLA with my bachelor's degree, and I graduated from USC with my master's degree. So I'm a Brojan. And currently, I'm a PhD student at The Ohio State University, pursuing my PhD in higher education and student affairs. And I was a former research fellow at the Campaign for College Opportunity. So while I was at the Campaign for College Opportunity, I got the privilege to interview students for the campaign's signature State of Higher Ed report and connect with them. I also received incredible mentorship from professional researchers that have been able to help me grow as a researcher and provide me with tools needed to succeed in my PhD program. What I love about the Campaign for College Opportunity is that they're not afraid to look at the data, and they're not afraid to advocate for students, for low-income students, students of color, first-generation college students, to really push for policies and practices that can help support them. And so, as many of you all know, this year marks the 16th anniversary of the Campaign for College Opportunity. So I wanted to give a special thank you to the campaign on 16 years of protecting students, increasing college opportunities, 16 years of putting students first, and 16 years of doing the challenging work needed to push and support equity in higher education. As someone who's walked the offices in the campaign in downtown LA, I know that the work never stops. I know that the team keeps working day and night to push for student-centered policy and really assess what's needed to keep going. And so for the leaders that are here today, I urge you all to really look at what the campaign is doing and what they're advocating for in terms of just putting students first and listening to what students have to say. And so use their research, listen to students, put students at the table, and appreciate all the work that they have done and are continuing to do today. So in doing so, you will be doing right by California students. Thank you.
That was fantastic, Rebecca. And good evening, everyone. I'm so thrilled to be here tonight to celebrate with a campaign for college opportunity, Governor Gavin Newsom, Chancellor Joe Castro, President Michael Drake, Superintendent Thurmond, and my very favorite, Chancellor Eloy Oakley, and of course, all of our guests. My name is Sonia Christian, and I'm the president of Bakersfield College, and I'm proud to serve as a board member of the Campaign for College Opportunity. For the last 16 years, the campaign has worked tirelessly to ensure that our colleges and universities can do the necessary and inspirational work of preparing our students to succeed. The team, led by 3 beautiful, smart, and talented women, the entire team, it's a team of warriors, and they have fought for increased capacity on our campuses, protection for undocumented students, simplified and clear transfer pathways, racial diversity in leadership positions, the end of detrimental admissions requirements, and much, much more. I am eternally grateful for the work they have done for our students in Bakersfield, in the Central Valley, and all across the state of California. But we know that the campaign's mission of making college dreams come true is up against some serious challenging forces. COVID-19, job loss, family illness, and mounting financial challenges are already impacting our students. Low-income Black and Latinx students and families have been particularly hit hard. So, friends, the benefits and promise of a college degree are more important than ever before. We cannot lose ground on the hard-won battles for equity in access and equity in success. Californians with degrees are more likely to come out of this pandemic and recession unscathed, and they will be there for us, strong and ready to rebuild our economy and infrastructure when the time comes. The campaign's efforts, advocacy, moral compass, and illuminating research are crucial in this work. So now, let's raise our glasses to the good trouble created, the battles won, the work that remains, and the higher education champions at the Campaign for College Opportunity who will be right alongside us in this fight for California students. Tom, I'll now hand it over to you.
Thank you, President Christian. And thank you all for joining us this evening. I'm Thomas Saenz. I have the great honor of chairing the board of directors of the Campaign for College Opportunity. And I want to begin by recognizing that tonight's success is really a demonstration of the great success shown by the Campaign for College Opportunity, led by Michele Siqueiros and her entire hardworking staff, in turn, led by Jesse Ryan and Audrey Dow. So I do want to begin by recognizing that in a very difficult year, the campaign has continued to have unparalleled success in its mission of advocacy for important transformational change in our higher education institutions. And what we've seen tonight is really an extraordinary demonstration of bold, innovative, forward-looking higher education leadership for the 21st century. The folks that Michele interviewed tonight have shown what we can expect in years to come from California. And I believe in several years, we will all look back and recognize that the changes, the innovations, the transformations led by these leaders have been replicated in a positive way across the country to help us all in increasing the educated workforce our country needs to continue to thrive. Not so long ago, 25 years, our state was the shameful exporter of bad public policy when it came to higher education. For example, Proposition 187 and its partial incorporation in Title IV of the Welfare Reform Act at the federal level continues to lay forward obstacles to serving some of our most important students. And Proposition 209, which was unfortunately replicated in 9 other states following California's enactment of a deplorable ban on affirmative action in higher education. A quarter century later, with leaders like the ones we've heard from tonight, I know that California will be an exporter of good, public policy for everyone in the higher education arena. In some ways, what we've seen from these leaders epitomizes what the campaign has become over 16 years of incredible success. The campaign began with a sole focus on the state of California and working to ensure greater access and success for all students in higher education in this state. Several years ago, the board of directors recognized that we had an opportunity and an obligation to ensure that the success that the campaign was achieving in California was replicated throughout the nation, starting with policies that are of necessity set at the federal level. So the campaign expanded its mission to solely focus not only on California, but also on some of the important national policies being made to promote higher education in our country. The campaign has developed into the strong organization that it is today because of the support and collaboration of so many. And so I conclude by saying thank you to each and every one of you who are with us tonight, and each and every one of you beyond this virtual room who have been our constant partners and collaborators and supporters financially and otherwise. Our good work will continue in a 2021 that will prove less challenging, so importantly from 2020, but that will of necessity put up other challenges to us. And I, for one, go into the new year confident in how California's higher education will thrive because of the work of the campaign and because of the leadership of those we've heard from tonight. So in concluding, thank you all. And we look forward to more good works in 2021 and beyond. And as we end, it's my great pleasure to once more introduce for another rendition of a song for all of us, the band Quetzal.
Love
I want to thank each and every one of you for your support of the Campaign for College Opportunity, of the students in California, and for your commitment to close the racial equity gaps that persist in our state. We know that when we achieve our mission, when those gaps are closed, that our economy will grow exponentially and we will be on track to a recovery much needed for all communities that deserve to realize their dreams of going to college and living a strong life in California. I also just want to end by thanking my incredible team. I know many of you see me, but behind me, next to me, in front of me is an amazing cadre of staff, of partners who work so hard. To Audrey Dow, to Jesse Ryan, to Shay Collins, to Amber, Lily, Vakash, each and every one of you contribute so much to the success of the campaign. We would not be where we are without you. Stacy, Sasha, Sarah, RC, because we have two Sarahs on our team, Jackie, Raquel. I am exponentially grateful for all of you. Kat, Josh, for always exercising leadership. Thank you so much for everything that you do. You help to make California strong, and I know that you always fight for our students. Thank you and good night.